I'm here today with Éric of Despised Icon. The man is eating a banana and he likes his potassium intake first thing in the morning. I couldn't agree more, but we're not here to talk about his food habits. We're here to talk about an EP that the band is releasing on October 28th on Nuclear Blast. And now, pardon my French, no pun intended. Dete is how you pronounce it?
Very well.
All right, all right. I'm from Toronto, but you know us Ontario folks, our French is not our strong language. So I struggle with my bilingual side. So it is what it is. How's it going?
Great, and thanks for having me. And nice to speak with a fellow Canadian citizen.
Yeah. It's nice to have you here for this conversation. And I want to start off by asking you, 20 years anniversary. Did you imagine back then that you would be here right now?
Not at all, man. I mean, the way we started Despised Icon, it was just a side project for Alex, our singer, and I. You know, he back then I was in a band called Necrotic Mutation. He was in a band called Neuraxis, and we had our own things going. So it was just a matter of two friends deciding to start a band for fun, you know, like a slam death metal ish brutal band, you know. So that's how it all started. So no, I couldn't predict I'd be here 20 years later, and that would be my main band in my career as a musician.
So what has some of the biggest challenges that you and the band has faced over this 20-year period?
Well, probably first and foremost is coming up with some new kind of metal, you know, because 20 years ago there when deathcore wasn't a thing. We were experimenting with merging hardcore breakdowns and riffs with death metal blast beats and fast parts. And you know, like 15 years ago, opening up a tour package that included Morbid Angel, Behemoth, and Crisian was pretty harsh on ourselves, you know, because they were expecting to see a full-blown metal band, and we had like short hair and colored clothes, and we were like, you know, having these breakdowns and stuff. So yeah, I guess, you know, blazing the trail for all the upcoming deathcore bands that would follow us over the years. That was probably the biggest challenge for us, you know. But we stick to it, and and I guess that's why we are doing this thing together this morning.
Yeah. And what's the secret for the longevity of the band? These days, so many bands break up after a few years, after a few albums. You guys have been together for 20 years. What is the
Yeah.
secret sauce?
Well, to be honest, we also broke up as a band like 12 years ago because back in 2010, after our fourth album, and I don't know, 800 or 1,000 shows later, we decided to pull the plug. We all started families and other careers, but we got back together in 2016 because truthfully we missed it way too much, and there was still some interest, and the fans were still out there for us. So but I guess the one of the secrets to longevity, I mean, for us, has been the fact that we remain pretty much the same lineup since day one, you know, aside one member. um we all stayed the we've been the same lineup for all those years, and we all live apart about you know, like a less than an hour drive apart from each other. So um we hang out together, we're friends. So I guess that probably helps out because I know some bands, you know, like they're scattered all over the world. Like they have like a bass player in Norway, and a singer in the UK, and a drummer in the US, and even within the US, some bands like have band members scattered all over the states. So I guess for us that's probably why we kept going at it, and we've been able to do it for so many years.
Being from Montreal, being from Canada, what changes have you seen in the scene locally from those early days of the band getting together to when you guys perform now?
Well, I remember that back then, there was a huge scene and a strong scene. Like there were many bands. Some of the bigger bands that paved the way for us, like Cataclysm, Cryptopsy, and Voivod, they were still around, and they are still around right now. But I guess they opened up the trail for us and other bands like Gorguts, Oblivion, Despised Icon, Iron Dissonance, pretty much gained international success. Um, but nowadays, I don't hear much about newer bands from Montreal making it like outside of the province. Of course, there are a couple bands that do pretty well and that go out on tour, like Beyond Creation or The Agonist. These are great bands that do well internationally, but they're fewer than there were 20 years ago.
So fewer bands in the scene now, but it feels like the music world is an easier one to get into. I'm sure the challenges that you guys had 20 years ago, if Despised Icon was coming together today, would perhaps be an easier road or an easier path for you guys to travel. So how do you see that balance? We have the world at our fingertips, and at the same time, it's harder for bands to come out and put their stamp into the market.
Well, that's the thing, and I not even sure that if Despised Icon would come out today, we'd have the same amount of success, or just would be able to get noticed worldwide, because that's the thing, you know. Nowadays, it's so easy for anyone to put out music and get on these old streaming platforms. So how do you get the attention of the fans and the scene and the crowds? Uh, 20 years ago, you know, you had to get signed to a label to have distribution and have like your music distributed in record stores, and then the label would hook you up on with a, a booking agent that would get you on high profile tours, so you can make a name for yourself. Nowadays, it's way much more DIY, and if you don't have money to back up your project or your band, and 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 self-finance tours, and even buy a place on some tours, it's really hard, you know. So that's, I mean, some tools are more accessible and easier to get out there, but to gain the attention, that's where it's way harder, I guess.
Now, when you guys were looking at a way to celebrate the 20-year anniversary, you probably thought, "Oh, cake would be a good option," but let's do an EP instead. So, how was the thought process behind this specific EP and the tracks that you guys included in it?
Well, as you mentioned, this is our 20th anniversary, and just to commemorate that, we earlier this year we released our two first albums, "Consumed by Your Poison" and "The Healing Process," on vinyl through our former label Centromedia. And while doing it, we on these anniversary releases, we included like live tracks and some like rare stuff. And digging through our band's archive, we stumbled upon the demo tracks for the Healing Process that are part of the Déterré EP. And we also noticed that the split CD we did for Relapse Records in 2005 with Bodies in the Gear of the Apparatus wasn't available anymore. It had been released through like a limited amount of copies back then, like a thousand print or something, and it wasn't available anymore. So we thought it'd be something cool to put out as an EP, combining these two demos. or that split CD and the demo tracks for Healing Process, and repackage all this and make it available for fans through Nuclear Blast as a 10-inch vinyl release. So, and of course, it's available as well on all streaming platforms and
Listen to
CD.
the EP. It's pretty obvious when you start listening to it that the 2 opening tracks and the 3 closing tracks, they obviously come from a different thought process, because sound-wise, there is a gap in between them, and more so from the guitar sound point of view. The guitar sound on the 2 opening tracks is very different than the guitar sound on the 3 opening tracks. Is that the first glimpse into the growth of Despised Icon as a band, that guitar sound that changes?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, because uh, they were the songs were written probably like a year and a half apart, and they were recorded as well a year apart. So the first 2 tracks, the very first demo we did with the 2.0 lineup of Despised Icon, because on our first album we had a female singer with Steve, one of our current singers, and when Marie-Hélène left the band in 2003, Alex stepped in on vocals and left the drums, and so these 2 songs are like the very first songs we recorded with Alex on vocals, and this is what is known as our actual sound as a band, our style and sound. Um, and then we wrote the 3 songs for the split CD later on, like a year after we recorded the album for Century Media. So I guess this is like an evolution of our sound, and I think those 3 tracks are closer to what you can hear on the Heels of Modern Man, which is our 3rd album, because they were written and recorded in between the 2nd and the 3rd album.
When you have a chance now to listen to this EP and see those early steps, that growth in sound, how much from that sound do you still see present in today's band and what you guys are currently doing?
Well, we pretty much stuck to our same writing style and formulas. It's always been important to us to have strong death metal elements, because that's the style of music we were pretty much influenced by when growing up as teenagers. We were into bands like Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, Obituary, Morbid Angel. So this is something that's always been around in our sound, and then we incorporated a bit more of the hardcore elements later on, and because we started to listen to more hardcore music, bands like Madball, Hatebreed, Agnostic Front. So yeah, I guess all these elements have been incorporated into the band sound in those years around 2004, 2005, and we still listen to all those bands, and so I guess it will always remain and be a part of our sound.
I have to ask you this question because I feel like I'm not the only one that wants an answer. Is there really such a thing as one last martini?
So this is a song that Steve, one of our singers, wrote, and
I feel like it's fake news. You know what I mean? Like there's no such thing as just one last one.
Agreed. I would have to revisit the lyric content of that song, but I guess Steve always writes in 2nd or 3rd degree metaphors, so I guess it has probably another meaning than a last martini, but or it's just a title to illustrate something that happened in his life and whatever. But good question.
With so many shows under your belt, really long career, do you have a song that you are almost forced to play live because fans expect you to play it live, but now because you've played it so much, you absolutely hate to play it live? Is there such a song on the Despised Icon catalog?
Yeah, I have to go with MVP. But you know, I can't say that I hate playing it, but you know, if it was just about me, it wouldn't be on the set list every show. But I mean, it's such a fan favorite, you know, and I guess this is like and it's crazy because it's one of those songs that you know we wrote like super last minute before recording the Day of Morning album. It's a song that our drummer came up with. Like that song is pretty much like a drum track that he sent me, and he said, "Okay, dude, I wanted to write like the fastest song I could play, and here it is, you know. But there's this long breakdown at the end." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And he just like put some riffs over it, and it'll be fine, you know. So that's what I did, and then the guys wrote some lyrics on it, even for the end breakdown. Like they didn't have any inspirations left, so they asked like two of our friends from Iron Dissonance to come up with like guest vocals and write their own lines in it, you know. So
They
so
outsourced. They outsourced.
yeah, exactly, they outsourced for the lyric content, you know. So and then you know, back then MySpace was a huge thing, even like bigger than Facebook and whatever that came after as social media platforms. So we just like released it on MySpace, and it had like the most plays, and it became like super popular. It wasn't even one of the singles we wanted to release with the album, because we didn't do like an official video for it or anything, but it became a fan favorite, and now we're stuck with it and have to play it every night.
What keeps you hungry? So many years in the business, so many years playing with the band. What keeps that fire alive?
Well, you know, as I said earlier, we disbanded for a good 6 years from 2010 to 2016, and during those years I had a lot of time to introspect, you know, and for that amount of years, aside Alex, I didn't have much contact with the other guys. But you know, when we started to get offers to do some reunion shows and reunion tours in 2015, I got back in touch with the rest of the band, and then we just, you know, we said, you know what, just let's just meet up and see how the vibe is and how it goes. So we met in the rehearsals in our drummer's basement. We had like this rehearsal space in his basement with his drums and everything. And you know, like the that sparked the flame to keep doing it, you know, because for the first time in many years, we just found back the joy and the pleasure of being together in one room playing music just for fun. You know, it wasn't like a business thing anymore. It was just for fun. Just the way we started 20 years ago. When we started this thing, it was just for fun, you know, like a project to be with friends, drink beers, and play like brutal music. So, and I guess this is what still that element is still present today, because we're not a full-time touring band anymore. We do like one or two tours a year at the most, like a handful of shows, like 30 to 40 shows a year at the most, compared to like 200 when we were super active. So you know, for us, it's way more enjoyable this way, and we can appreciate every time we spend doing it. So I guess that's what does it for us.
One last question for you. 2023 is around the corner. You're celebrating your anniversary now, but I'm sure you're already looking ahead to what the new year is going to bring. What can fans expect from Despised Icon in 2023?
For sure, a new album. We started the recording process for a new album. It's no secret. I think Alex posted it about it on our social medias. So we have like 11 new songs. All music is has been recorded. Now I mean, we're heading for this for Europe in about a week, 2 weeks, for a co-headline tour with Decapitated. And then once we come back from that tour, the plan is to finish writing lyrics and recording vocals and just, you know, like preparing the whole album launch cycle thing like all bands do. So yeah, fans can expect a new album in 2023 for sure, and uh, touring from us in support of that album.
So I'm going to guess that there's not going to be any ballads on this new record, right?
No, no, no. Even though sometimes we venture with like little acoustic intros and stuff like that. So far, this one is, and I'm not afraid to say it, but probably like our most brutal and heaviest album.
Well, that's saying something. That's really saying something, considering what you guys have done in the past. That really sets the bar, like it sets the bar really high. So really exciting about that. All right, Eric, thank you very much for your time, and it's a pleasure talking to you. You guys are a super iconic band, not just in Canada but worldwide. I mean, it's an absolute honor to have you on the channel. So thank you very much. Congratulations on the 20-year anniversary, and I hope to see you guys on the road in Toronto next year in support of that new record.
For sure, man, and thanks for having me. It's been real fun.
All right, take care, man. All the best.
Take care.